Hello, I'm Delusion Dispeller, and we have two more chapters left of Safe People. So I wanted to get right to those so I don't forget. This book is by Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, and the copyright is 1995 by those two men. Okay, so I believe we have two more chapters left. This is the second to last chapter. This is chapter 12. Or part 12, I guess. I don't know. Whatever. I'm looking to make sure I did not miss anything. I think we're good. Okay, so this is learning how to be safe. If you've lived in a neighborhood where there are no leash laws, you've probably seen a medium-sized dog chasing down a large car. I used to watch my dog, Little Bit, do this a lot when I was growing up, and I'd always wonder to myself, what's Little Bit going to do with the car if she does catch it? Take it home, bury it, eat it? I never got an answer because she never succeeded. You may have that same question as you've worked through the issues of identifying safe people in your life. When I find one, what do I do with him or her now? Look at him, go to a movie, ride off into the sunset. Remember, we're an action-oriented culture. Many of us are quite unfamiliar with the dynamics of closeness. The good news is that we can take action to become more intimate. These actions lead us into deeper connections with God's people, which then sustain us for life and growth. That's the issue of this chapter, how to be safe once you've found safety. There are several major tasks and opportunities ahead of you when you make the connection. Let's take a look at them. Learn to ask for help. Stacy was anxious. She'd been in my counseling group for a while, working on problems and relationships. A married mother of two, Stacy had spent a large part of her life taking care of people. These included her husband, her kids, and her emotionally dependent mother, who always needed Stacy to be strong. Stacy had begun to see how she was attracted to needy people and avoided being with giving people. She was always surrounded by charities, crisis cases, and ministries who knew she'd make herself available. But she was starting to understand how terrified she was of allowing people who could give to her get inside her. Stacy told me, "I realize I need people, and I don't ask for anything. What do I do?" I said, "The people in this group care about you, Stacy. They've grown to know you and love you. Several people here today would probably like to offer you something, but you'll need to let them know." Stacy was bemused. "Let them know what?" she asked. "They need to know that you're empty inside, that you have weaknesses and insecurities, and that you want them to tell you they care about you, even when you're weak. That'll do for starters," I answered. Stacy smiled a little. "Sounds good. Only one thing. You've already told the group I need to connect with them. Can't that count for my saying it?" After the group laughter died down, Stacy faced her friends. For the first time in her life, she asked people simply to let her know they cared for her. The group responded warmly, surprising her a little. She'd expected more critical comments, but Stacy was now on her way in doing safety. The first step is the hardest. Stacy was only half joking about having me ask the group for her, instead of her asking herself. It isn't easy to ask for help, and it's risky. Yet it's absolutely the first key in using our safe people to help nourish and mature us. Okay, I want to tell a really quick story here. So I went out with this group. I used to be a Word of Faith follower person. I still kind of am. I just don't have people to fellowship with that are like-minded. Anyways, we had gone to this seminar, and on the way back, we were taking this bus. And when we got, my mentor that ran the group stepped off the bus and said, "Okay, everybody, come here." She said, "Laura Beth, come over here." So I walked over there, and she had everybody get in a big circle. She said, "Okay, see how we're in this circle? Look all around." And she put me in the middle of it. So she's like, "Just turn around with me." So she said, "Look at all those faces. You see all these people? They're your brothers and sisters. We're your family. Do you see them? Now I want all of you guys out here," my mentor is saying, "all of you to tell Laura Beth, I love you, I care about you, you're blessed, you're awesome," whatever, just blessing the socks off of me, basically. She told them to say that. And then she told them to come in closer and keep saying it as they walked closer. Then she told them just to huddle around me and stop talking. And as they did that, she was talking to me. She said, "Laura Beth, I want you to know something. No matter what, we love you. No matter how far away we are, We love you. We're always going to be your family and always going to be your friends. And we're always going to care about you no matter how far away we are. Then she told the people, okay, now I want you to walk far, far away. Keep stepping back, till they were like way, way far away. She said, now, Laura Beth, look around. Look at all these faces. Do you see all these faces? Yeah. I said, yeah. She goes, no matter how far away we are, we haven't changed. We still love you. That never changes. Our love never changes. Whether we're on the phone with you or miles and miles away, whether we're laying hands on you and praying over you or giving you a hug or far, far away, we still love you. Our love still remains. And I remember how healing that was to me. I really got that in my spirit, and I no longer ever had that abandonment to the extent that I had it. There was another thing that happened where my one of my mentors did hold me in her arms and pray over me and rocked me like a child. I was a grown adult. I was like in my 30s. And that brought healing to me too. Those times are important, and they have to be with the right types of people. They will bring healing to your heart and your spirit, and it's very important that you have those healthy kind of people around you that understand where you're coming from and can kind of encourage you and remind you that you're loved. All right, so anyway, I just wanted to interject that story. I thought that was kind of similar to what they did with Stacy here. It just kind of brought back that memory. God places a high premium in the value of asking directly for help. Forms of the word ask appear almost 800 times in the Bible. Many of them an invitation from God for us to ask for things. If you believe, you will receive whatever you ask for in prayer. Matthew 21:22. You do not have because you do not ask. James 4:2. And receive from him anything we ask, because we obey his commands and do what pleases him. 1 John 3:22. Not only are we to ask God for what we need in prayer, but also other people. Paul wrote his friend Philemon, confident of your obedience, I write to you, knowing that you will do even more than I ask. Philemon 21. Asking is human and divine, because God created us to ask. Why is learning to ask for love so important? Here are a few of the reasons asking is helpful for us. 1. When we ask, we develop humility. To request help or support from another destroys any illusions of self-sufficiency we might harbor. Asking helps us remember that we are incomplete, that we are needy, and that we are to seek out outside of ourselves to take in what we need. This creates the position of humility in us, which opens us up not only to others, but to God. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. 1 Peter 5:5. When we ask, we are owning our needs. Asking for love, comfort, or understanding is a transaction between two people. You are saying to the other, I have a need. It's not your problem. It's not your responsibility. You don't have to respond, but I'd like something from you. This frees the other person to connect with you freely and without obligation. When we own that our needs are our responsibility, we allow others to love us because they truly have something to offer. In other words, asking is a far cry from demanding. When we demand love, we destroy it. When we ask, we are taking initiative. Asking is the ultimate passivity buster. It helps us out of the trap of wishing and hoping someone will somehow sense our pain intuitively and come to our rescue. This also means that asking keeps us much more in control of our lives. We aren't dependent on the clairvoyance of our friends. What a relief to them. This is true. I used to expect my boyfriends, when I would be upset and I'd go pout on the porch, I'd be all mad at them because they didn't come out to comfort me. Well, they didn't know I was upset. They probably just felt like I had to get some fresh air, you know. They didn't automatically assume I was upset. I had to tell them that. When we ask, we are developing a grateful character. God cherishes a grateful heart. He knows that gratitude will produce love in his people. Those who have been helped will help others. Those who have been loved and forgiven little, love little. Luke 7:47. Asking increases the odds that we'll get something. Though it sounds too obvious to say, it's important. How many times have you neglected reaching out to someone who is now absent from your life? Askers really do tend to get more out of their relationships. What do I ask for? This is important because many of us confuse function with relationship here. In other words, we're not talking about borrowing a cup of sugar from your neighbor or getting a ride to the airport. Asking for functional reasons is fine, but it will not help you develop relationships. In fact, it is easy to avoid relationships by asking only for functional things. Men tend to have a problem here. Will sometimes form relationships based or built on functional neediness. Sometimes this type of connection is called foxhole buddies, where there's a truly deep affection between two men who have depended on each other through tough times. Yet they may have trouble connecting emotionally. Learn to ask your safe people for the very things you found them for, a relational connection. Learn how to ask for your emotional tummy to be filled, just like you'd ask for breakfast for your physical body. Ask someone to be with you spiritually and emotionally, the same way that Jesus asked his closest friend in his darkest hour. My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death, he said to them. Stay here and keep watch. Mark 14:34. Here are some ideas. I don't ask well, but I'd like to start connecting with you. I am in a spiritual and emotional place in my life that I'd like to begin making attachments, and I'd like that with you. I need you. You're important to me, and I'd like to spend time learning how to be close. If you're interested, I'd like to deepen our relationship. Sound difficult? It is, but asking for help will enable you to internalize your safe people in places of your heart that are darkened, alone, and cut off. Take the first step and ask. Now, I have to put a little addendum in here. A lot of these things, if you say them to the wrong people, are going to be taken incorrectly. That you're trying to have a same gender connection with them or whatever. And that's not necessarily the case. Years ago, it was perfectly safe, back in 95 when this was written, to ask people in that way. Unfortunately, people have distorted and perverted things these days and take things totally the wrong way. Totally wrong compared to how you really mean them. So be aware of that if you do try to do this. Hang on just a second. I'm going to check and see how long this chapter is. It's quite a lengthy one. So I may do it in parts, I think. I'm going to finish this little section and then I'll put part 2 on for this chapter. In the summer of 1969, a British-born New York neurologist named Oliver Sacks began working in a Bronx mental hospital. He dealt with the patients in a ward named the Garden. It was given that name because the staff believed all they could do for this peculiar set of patients was to feed them and water them. These patients were victims of the great sleeping sickness epidemic of the 1920s. Some were completely paralyzed now, and some simply had bizarre physical behavior. For 3 decades, these people had simply existed as human vegetables. They were thought to be unthinking, almost brain dead. Sacks began studying this group and made an astounding discovery. The Garden patients were alive and aware. They were suffering from severe Parkinson's disease, rendering their muscles immovable. But the people within were thinking, feeling, observing individuals who were forced to mutely watch friends and loved ones talk about them as if they were objects, some for nearly 30 years. Sacks found that administering massive doses of L-Dopa designed to treat Parkinson's helped these patients regain muscle control. They began moving about and talking. Their sense of wonder at being able to be involved in their world was profound. Then, tragically, the effects of the L-Dopa began to wear off. The treatment, Sacks found, was only temporary, and the reborn again became the unborn. Slowly they returned to the living tombs inside their bodies. In 1972, Sacks wrote a book about his discoveries, which is now a medical classic titled Awakenings. Then in 1990, it was the basis of a major film. His work has deeply affected the thinking of many medical and philosophical minds. Sacks' experiences paint a vivid picture of the emotional state of many individuals. Like the patients in the Bronx Garden, those of us who have been emotionally detached may also have lost our ability to connect to the outside world. Our needs and hungers are lost somewhere inside, buried alive, with no ties to our real life. Life boils down to a sometimes meaningful series of thoughts and actions. A genuine sense of rich connection to others, however, is absent. Our needs sleep within us. This may be true for you. Your needs for relationship may have been buried. They may be so far underground that you've despaired of ever finding them again. If so, the second task, learning to need, is vital for you. This issue relates to the problem mentioned in Chapter 8, the inability to experience hunger. You may have been hurt, deprived, or disconnected from relationship for so long that the need simply died, leaving you with no experience of wanting connection. You know you need people, but you just can't make yourself want people. And yet, God created you to long for attachment, to desire to matter to someone, and to hunger and thirst for relationship. He made you that way, so that you could know when to seek comfort and connect. Just like your car's gas gauge, your needs tell you when you're on empty. You can regain your experience of neediness. You had it once. Almost all babies are born with the God-given desire to be protected, connected, and comforted. And God is in the business of redeeming that which is lost, including disenfranchised parts of your soul. Stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching, and God bless.